Dala Dhawa Jebe Dra No Bar Jebe Ge Tarba Dan Tom Je Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jebe Manang Kadang Yampe Senchen Tom Je Dewa Dang Den Tung Yao Dang Der Du Lana Me Pa Yang Nabra zobe janju rinpoche to paranjo lala thangwa jebe dra no par jebe ge tarba dan tamje gembe bardu jobra jeba tam jege zu jebe manang kadang nyampe senjen tamje dewa Dan den tu miao dang de ne du la na me pa yang dabra zo be jang ju rinpo je to bara jo da la dang wa je be da no par je be ge tar ba da tam che gen be bar du jo bara je ba tam je ge se je be ma nang ka dang Nampe senchen tamche dewa dan den tungyao dangde nudu lana me paya dabra zobe janju rinpo che do paraja de je de sama keki bardu lunga yisum gewa langu mashi bardu lunga yisum Gewa loku tu derine sunde nema santa samji bardu lunga yisum gewa loku sonje chodan soki chonam la Chanjo bardu dhani kyabsu ji dagi jinso kibe sonang ki Drola penche sanje drupra sho sanje jodan soge chonam la Chancho bardu dhani kyabsu je dagi jinso kibe sonang ki Drola penche sanje drupra sho sanje jodan soge chonam la Chanchu bardu dhani kyabsu je dhagi jinsu gebe sonam ke Drola penche sanje drupra ishu Kadang nyampe senchen tamche dewa dang Dewe gyudan dempra gyurji Dunyao dang dunyao gi gyudang Trewa gyurji Dunyao mepe dewa dang me trewa gyurji Niring chadang nidang trawe tang nyon la Nebra gyurji Manang kadang nyampe senchen tamche dewa dang Dewe gindan dembra gyurji Dunyao dang dunyao gi Gyudang dewa gyurji Dunyao mepe dewa dang me dewa gyurji Niring chadang nidang trawe tang nyong la nebra gyurji Manang kadang nyampe senchen tamche dewa dang Dewe gindan dembra gyurji Dunyao dang dunyao gi Gyudang dewa gyurji Dunyao mepe dewa dang me dewa gyurji Niring chadang nidang dewe tang nyong la nebra gyurji In all the worlds of the 10 directions reside Tathagatas of the 3 times. Before each of you, lions among humans, I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind. By the power of this aspiration to noble deeds, all conquerors appear vividly in my mind, with as many bodies as there are atoms in all lands. I prostrate to all you conquerors. In each atom are Buddhas, numberless as atoms, all in the midst of the heirs of the Buddhas. Thus I conceive of this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with you conquerors in this way, with infinite oceans of praise and oceans of diverse melodies. I sing the excellent qualities of you conquerors, and praise all of you gone to bliss, with the best flowers and best garlands, best music, ointments, and excellent parasols, finest lamps and superior incense I offer to you conquerors, with excellent garments and best fragrances and sandalwood powder, heap high as Mount Meru. All wondrous offerings perfectly arranged I offer to you conquerors. These vast and unequal offerings to each and every one of you conquerors, with the power of conviction and noble deeds, I prostrate and offer to all you conquerors all the harmful deeds that I have done with my body, speech, and mind, under the power of desire, hatred, and ignorance. I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all the meritorious deeds of all conquerors in the 10 directions and the heirs of the Buddha, solitary realizers, hearers still in training and beyond, and all wandering beings. You who are lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who have unobstructedly attained Buddhahood through the stages of Bodhi, all you who are my protectors, please turn the unexhaled wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the world for the happiness and well-being of all wandering beings. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain and 4 continents, I experience as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To the Gurus who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer inner secret thusness offerings. With my body, wealth, and all phenomenal existence, please grant the unsurpassed supreme attainment. Whatever slight virtue I may have gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate it to complete Bodhi. Guru Deva Dhagini Ratna Mandala Pratitya Soha. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Doji Janjen de Le Naroda, Mami Dabu Badu Jidin Gungadin Zundan Zabela Mesha Sakula Mayidam Jogyum La Soba de Zodagi Jinjilum Kiam Drinki Dome Zang Gen Drapedum Sonyum La Kiatsome Gawadu Chang Pa Jidin Gumpe Shabla Du Tatu Samgya Kyole Me Jinjin Loshi Tu Jinjin Ngen Mubasane Kyansem Dode Du Pra Jinjilo Jin Yojin Changsam Bema Kesa Dongpola Yasin Joking would dream near Bema Junation, go to Kandama Pugora, Gagges and Dog, the Gagin of Jesus. So Guru Bemas the Joking put on letters and such a cooking of money. And Saint Jogung also don't say about Zavela Meshala so. Good morning, good evening to everyone. Before we start, let's see. Javier, if you can share the link to the recording of the first of the Shavasti Meditation Mindfulness of Breathing Sutra class. So if you look at the chat area, soon Javier is going to provide a link. When you go to the link, for those of you who need Spanish, at the very top of the page, there is a further link to go to the Spanish version. And there, the Spanish translation for that class is available. Otherwise, on the main page, that Javier will share the link. There, at the bottom of that page, you will see both the video as well as the audio. The audio file has edited out the pauses in between. So this is a lot of effort. Javier and his team has diligently done that and will continue to do for the rest of that series, for the benefit of those of you who can listen to English and want to just listen without the pauses. Javier or Omar or whoever has the link. And this is not the YouTube link I'm talking about. There's also a YouTube link, but I'm talking about the Drugong Dhammakiti website link. Yes, Omar has shared it. As I'm sure all of you know, this series will last for 6 weeks on Thursday evening in the US. So if you're in Asia, it's Friday morning. So today we start a new chapter in our Bodhicharyavatara study. And this is the chapter that is called Diligence. Sometimes Some might translate this chapter as joyful effort. Joyful, that word is not explicitly in the title, but when we look inside this chapter, you will see that again and again Shantideva himself emphasized how this effort, this energy, diligence, virya, in Sanskrit, virya, this effort needs to be the joyful type, not like the kind of depressed type. Of course, when you're depressed, there's no energy, but it cannot be frantic. Maybe that's what I meant to say. It cannot be a frantic, it cannot be like panic mode effort. This effort should be based on, joy. Now, how do we get joy into the picture? We will see. So I want to take us to the very last verse of this chapter, verse 76. So let's quickly take a look at 76, because this last verse to summarize the whole chapter is a beautiful verse. In the translation that I have here, it says, just as flaxen threads waft to and fro, impelled by every breath of wind, so all I do will be achieved, controlled by movements of a joyful heart. So normally, the analogy of wind in many of the Buddhist teachings associates the movement of winds with something undesirable. So it will say, don't get blown around, for example, by the 8 winds of worldly concern. Remain unmoving. But this is one instance where the wind is used in a positive sense. And it says here, breath of wind. Every breath of wind, breath suggesting like a life-giving property. Every breath of wind that moves these threads of flax. And this flax is a material that is also used to make fabric. So it says like just as, with winds just blowing, these threads of flax will move, waft to and fro. He says, so too, in the same way, everything that I do will be controlled by movements of a joyful heart. That it will come from a place of joy. Everything I do is the diligence part. So may it be so for all of us. Using this as an opportunity, I want to maybe plant or scatter some seeds out there. Where they will fall, if they will sprout, we don't know. But if we don't at least scatter some seeds, for sure, nothing is going to sprout. So if anyone feels that you have been moved in some way by a joyful heart and would like to maybe learn and then help in producing these audio files of the teachings minus the pauses. Already, I think Javier and his team have thought about doing that with this Shantideva series. So maybe if you have some facility with computers, some facility means you are not afraid of it and you think you can learn. Then if you are interested in the project, I'm sure Javier can teach you how to produce this. The technology now is getting more and more user-friendly if you find a effective guide. So just to scatter some seeds, plant some seeds out there. Yeah, so this chapter, diligence, is not as long as the last chapter. So in Khenpo Kunpel's commentary, verse 1, 2, and 3 are treated kind of separately, and it is from 4 to 14 that you get a chunk, a section. From 4 to 14, he identifies that section as cultivating an antidote to the kind of laziness that is yearning for idleness. We'll see when we look at verse 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is introduction to the whole topic. And there, Shantideva identifies and defines laziness. So diligence is an antidote to laziness. But again, just like Kshanti and anger in the last chapter, the definition is not our usual definition of patience and anger. It's a deeper, broader definition. Likewise here, diligence or virya and its enemy, which here is translated as laziness. We'll see that his definition of laziness covers a broader range. So, but don't get disappointed, you think, oh gosh, the usual laziness, I already have a lot. Now that you're going to define laziness beyond the usual laziness, then, oh, it feels impossible. But his goal is not to intimidate you, but his goal is to really show, the very many ways in which laziness can kind of turn up. And I've always found this explanation of laziness to be really helpful. So the definition of laziness that we find here by Shantideva is not exclusive to Shantideva. Elsewhere in the Buddha's words and in the commentaries, this is well discussed. Like I said, I find this discussion of, specifically, they say there are 3 types of laziness. Or laziness covers 3 kind of phases. It can turn up in 3 different phases. So as I said, I find this helpful because my, I think, basic constitution is of the lazy type. In Tibetan, Chinese, Indian medicine, they classify kind of body types into the busy type, lazy type, and easily influenced type. So these are the three types. So the lazy type, Beken, the predominant element is earth and water. The busy type, the predominant element is fire. And then the easily influenced type, the predominant element is wind. People say, like, oh, no, you're not lazy, and that's because they only see certain sides, they see the side that is always busy. But here's a secret. Usually it's the lazy types that have to keep themselves very busy. Because the minute, you slip, then finish, it just won't be seen ever again, won't leave the house, will never shower again. So now let's read verses 1, 2, and 3, which is the introduction to this chapter. Thus with patience I will strive with diligence, for in such diligence enlightenment is found. If no wind blows, then nothing stirs, and neither is there merit without diligence. Diligence means joy in virtuous ways. Its contraries have been defined as laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self-contempt, a taste for idle pleasure, and a craving for repose and sleep, no qualms about the sorrows of samsara. Laziness indeed is born from these. So these three verses, especially 2 and 3, explains the effects and the causes of laziness. So the effects are the three types of laziness. What are the causes of this laziness? He also talks about. So the first verse ties the last chapter to this chapter, bridging into this chapter. So he says, thus with patience. So with the big topic of patience that he just discussed, the big topic of Kshanti that he just discussed, he says, thus I will strive with diligence until Buddhahood is achieved. So again, he starts this chapter with the metaphor of winds, using wind in this case in a positive way. And he ends this chapter in the last verse, going back to this analogy, this metaphor of wind again. And so here he says, without diligence, serving as this wind, then there will be no merit. Merit, again, this word often is kind of problematic, especially in the West, or at least in maybe I suspect culturally Protestant West, because the idea that you have to gain spiritual merit has been criticized as part of the corruption of organized religion. Because why? It has been treated as how organized religion will scare people into giving them money in order to gain merit, so that you can have enough merit to be in a good spiritual place. So many people, don't like to hear about this word merit. Because it suggests like greediness on many levels. Like, why does the religious authority indoctrinate people with the idea that they need to build merit, and building merit suspiciously is related to giving to the religious institution? First one. Second one, this whole idea of merit seems to say that some of us deserve the spiritual result, whether you want to call it heaven, if you believe in heaven, or you want to call it enlightenment. So as a result, we kind of throw out this idea completely because we're so uncomfortable with it. Sorry. So merit or punya in Sanskrit, merit is basically, think of it as energy source, fuel. Without fuel, right? Without gasoline, you can't get anywhere. Even if you have very fancy car, or even fancier, you have electric cars. Without a fully charged battery, you can't go anywhere. Without food, without nourishment, you have no energy to do anything. So this fuel, this merit, punya, is necessary. Without this, it cannot fuel, it cannot power our journey from confusion to awakening. Yes, so when we get opportunities to exert effort, especially in the context of Dharma, we need to not see that as, you know how often, especially among Tibetan, those involved in Tibetan Buddhism, this word obstacle, turns up a lot. Obstacle, 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 But, basically, when things don't go our way, we then use this magic word obstacle, right? Obstacle. But be careful, especially like, for example, in the context of Dharma practice. Like, oh, I need to like log on to the computer, these Zoom ID, there are like, 9 letters, why can't they make it just 4? So this is like the Zoom Dharma obstacle, the online Dharma obstacle, right? And I cannot remember, they send out so many information, which ID is which ID. So, oh, this is all just obstacles. Then before Zoom, it's like, oh, I have to drive to the center, parking is really difficult, it's really hot day, the meeting starts at a busy time, traffic is really bad, See, no matter, whether you have to drive physically to some place to practice, and now you can practice online from home, we always think up, we always have this kind of attitude, like, oh, this is so complicated, this is so difficult. Yeah. But here, right, if we're able to see that, not that we should go look for complications, but whenever we respond to, I'm only going to speak to the Dharma situation, which I'm sure you can extend to all other areas in your life, really, but at least let me speak to the Dharma situation. If we can respond to the Dharma situation and say, oh, here I get an opportunity to put in more diligence, virya, which he will define as joy in virtuous way, the next stanza, first line. Diligence means to take pleasure, to take joy in engaging in virtuous ways. So the virtuous way would be, oh, I want to practice Dharma. There is an opportunity to practice Dharma. So whatever stands between me here and opportunity to practice Dharma there, whatever that gap is, it's an opportunity for me to bring up more effort. And by bringing up more effort, we build up more energy. We build up our spiritual muscles. In the Muslim tradition, they have a saying that the Prophet Muhammad once said that every step that you take to get to the mosque to participate in group prayer, he says, every step that you take increases your merit tenfold. So that means the further you live from the mosque, the greater effort you put in, the greater merit. So this is a very good example. Yes, it is true. We don't want to unnecessarily complicate our lives. So I'm not advocating, making it really hard. But what I am saying is we should not give in to laziness. Then a way that we are in fact giving in and also encouraging laziness is if we
keep thinking of how can I make it easier? How can I make it easier? How can I make it easier? Whether for yourself or for others. If you keep thinking, how can this made easier? How can we make it easier? How can we make it easier? When that happens, whatever it is that you're making it easier loses its value. This is just the nature of human attitude. As they say, easy come, easy go. So, for example, technology. Facebook, for example. For those of you who are on Facebook, you know that I'm on Facebook. Facebook is very good to kind of quickly put the word out there. And for those people who are interested in what you have to say, it's also a very good way to kind of have quick access to. But majority, at least at this point, of what is posted on Facebook, easy come, easy go. Even profound Dharma. But nobody really thinks about it at all. Scroll, 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 scroll. It's become so easy. I, for one, would say things like, I used to say, now I don't say so much, like, oh, websites are useless. Nobody goes there. I was also thinking like that, it's inconvenient. But now, recently, I have a turn of heart, I say, actually, now, websites, we need to think of website as a place that people can tune out all the other distractions, online-wise. And if it is a good website with good resources, that is a more meaningful way to engage people in Dharma. And so that's why we have put in the effort to create this Dugong Dharmakirti website. So that's one. Of course, I'm slightly promoting the website, but it's also, I think, a good example to think about. Like, how do we more seriously engage something? So basically, things that come easily, go easily. That's just our nature. We don't appreciate. So another example, I remember then when I was a kid, growing up, there are certain types of foods, right? Certain types of food that we would only get to eat at certain times of the year, like New Year, certain types of food during the sweeping of the graves in the Chinese tradition, somewhere around April. There are certain types of food so on different points throughout the year, there are on different occasions, there are different types of food. And it was very special when those times come along. Then at some point, because of availability and modern infrastructure, transportation, and all of that, and then we also got smart, or at least we thought we got smart, and we say, hey, now do we have to wait until next year this time to eat this? No, next week I can make. Or somebody I can ask to make and pay them. Next month I can have, Now at this point, the whole year seems kind of flat. We think we're so smart, Now I can have the rice dumplings, this 粽子. Any time of the year, just go around the corner, someone is selling it. But the satisfaction I get from that, I can tell you, is not the same as when only once a year, around May, June, we get that. So things have become so easy, and we think it is a good thing, and we are still, all businesses, all technology are still moving in the direction of making it easier, making it easier, making it easier. But has that really made our lives better, more leisurely, more satisfying? I think to some degree, of course, especially when medical science is allowing people to live longer, especially when technology is helping so that people don't have to literally break their backs doing things. Yes, I agree, those have helped. But the direction that we're going in making it everything easier, 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 what that does is it encourages our laziness that Shantideva is talking about here. And then if with regards to Dharma practice, we fall into the mindset of easier, easier, easier. Anything that takes a little bit more effort, we're like, no, I'm not interested. And then there's no way out of this confusion. There's no way out of this mess. So now let's look closer at Shantideva. He says on verse 2, stanza 2, he says, first line, right? He says, diligence, virya, means joy in virtuous ways. So in other words, it's not just the neutral diligence. Just as in the teachings on the Shavasti meditation, when I was defining what is now translated into English as mindfulness, or to be mindful, sati. So yes, of course, there is the use of sati, where it's, or smriti in Sanskrit, that is neutral. It's just a mental factor, meaning the ability of the mind to stay focused on what it is focused on. Yeah, but in the context of the Buddha recommending that we develop sati or smriti, then he's talking about skillful smriti, skillful sati, which is keeping the mind anchored on recollecting, remembering, not forgetting, not being distracted on a skillful object. So in the context of anapanasati is the experience of breath, the breath that arises and ceases. So likewise here, virya, as a neutral matter, you can have all virya towards all sorts of things. But here, in the context of virya being a bodhisattva paramita, a paramita that bodhisattva should perfect, should bring into full fruition, then it's defined as joy in engaging in virtue. The joy that arises when we are engaged in virtuous actions, meaning skillful actions. So here then he says, and what is the enemy? What is the opposite of this joy, that joy in virtuous ways? He says then it's laziness. Now here he's giving three types of laziness, you can say. The first one is simply here called laziness. That is the one that our common definition of laziness, which is, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. I just, I have no energy. I don't want to do anything. I like not doing anything. Avoiding any activity, preferring not to put in any exertion with anything. Then the second type of laziness, defined here, it's not something that we normally think of as laziness, but Shantideva says, actually, it is, because it's closely related, which is an inclination for unwholesomeness, meaning an inclination for unskillful habits. So not only unwilling to put in effort or exertion towards skillfulness or skillful actions, but on top of that, naturally picking up habits that feed the first kind of laziness, especially. Then the third type, and of course he will like talk in detail in this chapter. Then the third type is defeatism and self-contempt. Meaning, he says, it is actually also a way that laziness turns up when we have this feeling, this attitude, oh no, it cannot be done. And self-contempt. Like I don't like myself. So in a way, Shantideva is giving us the deeper psychology of laziness. So it comes from self-contempt, then defeatism, because you don't like yourself. You're not comfortable with yourself. Then from there already, once that is there, then you don't want to do anything because you don't think you can accomplish. Or you extend it to others and you said, I don't have enough people to help me. It cannot be done. Then you pick up unskillful habits that feed this self-contempt and defeatism, then you don't want to exert any effort or energy in anything. So now we see, that these three types of laziness are in fact what keeps us trapped in confusion, in cyclic existence, in samsara. Stanza 3, Shantideva says, and where does this laziness come from? What feeds this? What causes this? What feeds this? So here, again, and a look at this matter from the cause and effect side of things. So then the cause is, he says in stanza 3, a taste, a craving for idle pleasure. We want quick satisfaction. We want quick, fleeting pleasures, one after another. Then, of course, once we have this much of this pleasure, then after a while, it's boring. It's not enough. Then we want more of this type, then this type, then this type. So a craving for this passing, unreliable pleasure, a craving for sleep and relaxation. Just take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. And finally, the more underlying issue, he says, is no qualms about the sorrows of samsara. And why no qualms? Meaning samsara, oh, not a problem. It's okay. Sometimes things are inconvenient, that's all. That is because, samsara promises us, my proverbial Martha Stewart redesigned theme for samsara prison. Or maybe more up to date is that team called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy team. They can come in and redesign your life, redesign your house, redesign your kitchen, redesign your samsara, redesign your prison. Then you're like, it's not that bad after all. When it's bad, I will do some mindfulness meditation and just be in the present, be in the present, be in the present. Nonetheless, sitting in prison, be in the present, be in the present. Laziness in these is born from these. Stanza 3, last line. Yes, I think many of us, have forgotten what we might call simple pleasures. And so then we exhaust our energy, our resources, chasing after more difficult pleasures, more tricky pleasures. So many of us forget to, as we say, stop and smell the roses, savor the cup of tea that you're drinking, enjoy, the taste of a raisin, and all of that. So now in the wellness movement called mindfulness, they teach you to do things like that. Be in the moment, just enjoy sunset, taste your raisin or your chocolate. That is good, much better than running around, drinking, gambling, all kinds of addictions, addiction to drugs, gambling, pornography. Yes, of course, much better if we regain these simple pleasures and appreciation. But the Dharma goes further. We have to remember this. This is not criticizing, saying, oh, this mindfulness movement is not good. Much better than the other trouble we get into. But it's a mistake to think this is it, that the Buddha's Dharma is just so that we can appreciate, the taste of raisins. Or even a better night's sleep, Gosh, the Buddha spent 45 years to teach you that? No. Buddha also wants us to see, as long as we are tethered to, as long as we're tied to sense experiences, craving for it, we will not escape the cycle. Not only that, the good news is we can cut that tie and become liberated and free, just as he did it. Yeah, we have to remember that, Otherwise, we turn Dharma into part of the prison designing program. Or rearranging, the furniture on the Titanic, You all know the Titanic, yeah? Kate Winslet and what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio, 20 years ago or something like that, made this movie about the Titanic. We all know what the end of that story is, right? The Titanic goes down. So then Dharma becomes, how to rearrange the furniture in the Titanic. We got to be careful not to turn Dharma into that. Also, okay, to be clear, I'm not recommending, I'm not suggesting, now we have to go around, this is dead serious. This is very serious. We have to be so serious, we have to be so tight, this we cannot do, this we cannot do, this we cannot do, this we cannot do. Only we have to get out of samsara. That is not virya. There's no joy there. That is just making things very tight, making the mind very rigid. That will not work. At best, what that kind of approach does is it enhances, what you think are your spiritual credentials. I'm such a serious Dharma practitioner, much better than everybody else at my Dharma center. Yeah, so let's take a quick break. I forgot that we should take a break. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come back.
Om Wage Jore Mum Wage Jore 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 Om Wage Jore Om Wage Jore Mum 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 wage joare 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 wage joare
Okay, let's see. Are there any questions or comments? No? Okay, well, if not, we continue. Yeah, so this next section, 4 to 14, so Khenpo Kumpel, he identifies this section as, the first kind of laziness, which is the laziness that manifests as the not wanting to do anything. Just want to be relaxed, but not relaxed in a healthy way at all. Lethargic, feeling defeated, feeling there's no purpose, Now, let's be clear again. Again, I have to remind all of us, myself included, when we experience these mental, emotional states, it doesn't make us a bad person. Yeah, but this way doesn't divide the world into good people and bad people. Buddha divides, so to say, into those who are still caught in confusion, the web of confusion, and therefore suffering, and those free from. So it doesn't make us a bad person if we have, or currently have, because it's not nothing. Nothing remains permanent. We currently are undergoing, feeling a lot of this kind of laziness, for example, idleness. Again, like I say, like myself, I relate very well to these different types of laziness. Even the kind of the self-contempt, sometimes, I catch myself with even that, I mean, generally, I think in that direction, generally, I think maybe my more obvious problem with that is pride, not self-contempt. But it's there for sure, feeling like, I cannot. Then it leads to, then I don't want to do anything. So we have this, but here, Shantideva says, there's an antidote. There's a way to counteract this. So 4 to 14 will be focused on how to cultivate, how to develop. So bhavana. So if this is not translated properly, we might accidentally translate it to how to meditate on. And meditate, that word often is so passive, We think that meditate is to do nothing. But the word the Buddha used for meditate is to cultivate, to provide the environment possible for the growth of these qualities, the skillful, virtuous qualities. So stanza 4 to 31, he will discuss how to cultivate the antidote to laziness. Then from 32 to the end of the chapter, it's how to implement the favorable conditions for diligence. So the first part is how to counteract the 3 types of laziness. The second part of this chapter is how to bring together all the conditions for joyful effort to arise more strongly and more strongly. So that's the general structure of this chapter. So let's read 4 to 14 right now. Snared by the trapper of the foul emotion, enmeshed and taken in the toils of birth, again you've strayed into the maw of death. What is it? Have you still not understood? Don't you see how, one by one, death has come for all your kind? And yet you slumber on soundly like a buffalo beside its butcher. All the paths of light are blocked. The Lord of Death now has you in his sights. How can you take such pleasure in your food? And how can you delight to rest and sleep? Death will swoop on you so swiftly. Gather merit till the moment comes. For even if you then throw off your indolence, what will you do when there is no more time? This I have not done, and this I'm only starting, and this I'm only halfway through. Then is the sudden coming of the Lord of Death, and all the thought, alas, I'm finished. You look upon the faces of your hopeless friends, their tear-stained cheeks, their red and swollen eyes, for such will be the depths of their distress. And then you'll see the heralds of the deadly Lord. The memory of former sins will torture you. The screams and din of hell break on your ears. With every terror you'll foul yourself. And what will you do in such delirium? If, like a living fish that twists and writhes, you are so terrified while still alive, what need to speak of pain unbearable in hells created by past evil deeds? How can you remain at ease like this when you have done the deeds that lead to contact on your tender baby flesh of boiling liquids in the hell of extreme heat? So testy and thin-skinned, you want results without endeavor. Many are the troubles now in store for you. Though in the grip of death, you are behaving like a god, and suffering, alas, will beat you down. So take advantage of this human boat. Free yourself from sorrow's mighty stream. This vessel will be later hard to find. The time that you have now, you fool, is not for sleep. Okay, first, we don't need to attack sleep, okay? Many of us already have trouble sleeping properly. So Shantideva is not recommending that you wreck your health by attacking sleep. Context is different, okay? So I want to say this first. Yeah, many of us, in fact, are suffering from improper sleep due to all the stimulation, especially screen stimulation, then our worries, and then our depression, our worries about the world, about COVID, about, wherever, all sorts of things about the economy, about the environment, about all sorts of things far and near, all of that, and then also our diet, first time in human history, that the health problem is over nutrition and not under nutrition for many of us. Really, first time in human history, people actually proudly tell you this food that they are selling you has no calories. Think about how far and how wrong we as a civilization has gone. You pay double the price for the same food, but this one has no calories. This is where we are, So first, there is the unhealthy lack of sleep. And then there is the healthy not needing so much sleep. Don't end up cultivating the wrong one and think I'm practicing Dharma, I'm following what Shantideva says. Especially when most of us, we are so tethered to, we are so tied to this body. That when this body is not in a state of wellness and health, emotionally, even when we know a lot of Dharma, is very hard to work on removing the mental defilements. The slightest thing goes wrong, it provokes a very strong response. We become very irritable very easily. Even those of us who have many, many years of Dharma information, Dharma practice, when the body is not in a healthy state, then you can basically see how even when you know better, you cannot escape the suffering that arises. And so again, I think I mentioned this, Gyalpa Jigten Sungön has this funny statement in Gongchik, where it says, in samsara is the body that wanders. In other words, it's the body that is suffering, that gets dragged around. Of course, don't approach this statement as a, kind of like doctrinal statement, Obviously, we're not saying that it's a body that is reborn, it's the mind. But the statement is to emphasize how on the experiential level, when you suffer, it is often tied to this body. So it's this body that wanders. It's this body that picks up suffering. That's why in the Anapanasati practice, the 16 steps, the first 4 steps is basically aimed at pacifying the body, calming the inflammation in the body, cooling down the misfunctioning of the immune system, our the way that our body is, triggered, our nervous system misfunctioning. So basically the first 4 steps in the 16th step explained in the Anapanasati Sutta, it's to first allow us to have a better control over the body being at ease. Only then, does it become easier to address the mental defilements directly. In the first 4 steps, mental defilements are being addressed, but like a strategic warfare, so to say, you do not directly attack the enemy at the beginning. You have to build up a strong army. And so the first 4 steps is about settling the body first. And so likewise here, Shantideva says on stanza 14, before we go back to 4, stanza 4:14, it summarizes this section. He says, so take advantage of this human boat, meaning this human body, to free yourself from sorrow's mighty stream. For this vessel, this life, this body, will be hard to find. So the point here is, don't. Even if, your body, because our body is not well, it feels lethargic, it feels like it's so heavy to even lift a finger, and so we want to sleep, right? we need to I would say, we need to regain a good, healthy body in order to create those conditions where we can sleep well, and therefore we don't need to sleep so much. So it's not attacking sleep, okay? It's saying, don't slumber your life away. Don't sleep your life away. So in that sense, sleep is not just physical sleep. You could be wide awake, but like a zombie. That means asleep. How do we cultivate those factors to counteract this first type of laziness? Basically, it's the first two of the four thoughts that turn the mind. For those of you familiar with that, which is to remember, to become mindful of, to recollect again and again. What a special and wonderful opportunity we have in this human existence that we have gained right now. An existence that is filled with the endowments and free from those having the 8 freedoms and having the 10 endowments. So Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation lists out these. Then Padru Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher explains, giving very relatable examples, expanding on this. So the first thought that turned the mind is, so to turn the mind in this context from getting stuck in this first kind of laziness, that we go into a mental, emotional darkness, sleep in that sense, is to reinvigorate ourselves and say, hello, We have such a wonderful existence right now. You know, don't waste it away. It's not going to come back again. Second thought that turned the mind is, we never know when this is all going to be over. Huh? So not to like trigger fear in an unhealthy way. Although, you know, when you read the verses in this section, you might think that, you know, Shantideva is a little bit too extreme. But again, you know, like I said, you know, don't read this, you know, as black and white, you know. There's poetry. He wants to inspire you. Sometimes he will scare you. But don't forget the overall picture. It's like watching a movie and getting stuck in one section, you know, where it's really terrifying. And then you say, oh, yes, the Titanic, that movie is terrifying. Then you get stuck in only one part, you know. Always remember the bigger picture. Likewise, when we read, you know, like especially Bodhicharyavatara, always remember, you know, the big picture. Yeah. So the sound effect, you know, in this section is definitely dum dum dum. But it's only one segment of this symphony. And so today we will stop here. Then we will continue on Tuesday. Can I also ask someone, those of you who know where the page is, to share the Bhutan Monastery project? Again, the team has created a section in our Drugong Dhammakirti website under projects to highlight this project in Bhutan. It's essentially an educational project. Okay, so Leonard found it. So before we leave Zoom, you might want to copy or click that link in the chat if you want to learn more about that project. And again, there's also Spanish equivalent for that page. So if you know, or yourself or other people who are interested in supporting, basically educating these young monks, want to participate, there is the link with the information. Unfortunately, no Chinese. So someone's offering the sound effects for this section for dedication. Joyful sound effect. Changju sem chorim poche ma ge ba nam ge gyuje ge ba nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du bel war shu. So remember this short dedication, right? Excellent and precious Bodhicitta, that first line of this dedication. If you look at the chapters of Bodhicharyavatara, the first line, excellent and precious Bodhicitta, is referring to chapter 1 of Bodhicharyavatara. Where it has not arisen, the next line of the dedication, where it has not arisen, may it arise, is chapter 2 and 3. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, is chapter 4, 5, 6, which we just finished. Then the final, but ever increase higher and higher, are the last 4 chapters. So today we just entered into this last, and may it increase higher and higher, which is starting with the chapter on diligence. Okay, thank you so much. You all have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Adiós.
Buen fin de semana, muchas gracias.
Adiós, gracias.
Gracias, Claudia.
Gracias.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you. Bye-bye.